Hi everybody, Michael Hall 15 on iRacing and the builder of the RacePal-dot-Live free weekly community setup. This week we're at New Hampshire and this is an AI race against an AI that is skilled at 30 to 60%. You can see you want to come in to the turn in the third line. You can race the third line all the way around, but you want to exit from the second lane if you can. Sometimes you'll find yourself going high. Maybe you overdrive the corner. That's okay too. Those top two lanes are drivable, especially if you're going to set up a pass later. I'll show you that. Here I've gone to the very bottom and scrubbed out on a guy in a real race. I definitely would have doored him out. He would have been pissed. I'd had to apologize. Go straight down the stretch. There's nothing special about going down the stretch at the wall. Coming in the third lane. I scrubbed out a little bit, but that's okay. It's just because I'm trying to beat a little more speed into the car. Get around a car on the inside. Here's the 27 car. I'm going to force him down. In this case, I managed to get 2 cars down to the bottom. Now 3. Third line all the way through. That's ideal. It's a great way to pass a whole chunk of cars if you can build up a little bit of a run. Force that guy out, take my third line in. I would have exited my second line here, except I see an opportunity to pass. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom and fire off from here, right by the pit road exit. Here's where we can fire off from the second, or maybe even the bottom. It didn't really work out, so I decided to get behind the guy and just build up a little run. I'm going to peek, make him think I'm going inside. A human player will jump down there to block, and then I can come in on my third line like I like. In this particular case, that was no problem. Exiting from the second lane, perfect. I timed that pass beautifully. Come in on the third lane, exit on the second. There's a choreography between the brake and the wheel. You'll notice that the wheel is taking off to the left just as the braking is taking off to the right, going towards zero brake. You don't want to be turning the car with a lot of heavy brake. That eats up the right front. Not good. Lots of brake, brakes off, wheel in. I'm going to start using the throttle to rotate the car. You don't want to steer with the steering wheel, believe it or not. I know it sounds weird, but you want to steer with the throttle. Watch my exits, especially at this stage of the race. Got a few laps. Using that throttle to get it to turn. Straightening the wheel, let the throttle do the rest. Building up a run on a guy, I'm not going to take him on the inside. I don't want to dive bomb. I like coming in high. I'm watching that 30 car. I'm going to cross him over. Actually, he's so slow I decided to take him on the right. Okay, we'll do that then. The faster drivers, you're going to have to cross over, which is definitely going to be the pass here. Go way high, 4th groove, 4th lane. Fire off out of that corner really super low. Just absolutely leave him behind on the straight. Throttle only on the turn. Once you got that wheel set, just use the throttle to rotate the car. Lots of brake. Now the brake's off and the wheel's in. Again, watch the choreography between the wheel. You can see the orange tab in the telemetry. Watch how the brake comes in. As the brake goes out, the wheel comes in. It's a handoff. And that circular telemetry really tells the story. You can just kind of see the wheel take off to the left, the brake take off to the right. It like spread out. It shows the smoothness. Smoothness matters here. Every time I go into a turn, watch that choreography. I'm in a groove now. Gotten past all the really super slow cars. I was making passes wherever I could find them. Now I'm just going to run my line and drive past these cars. They're already getting a little fall off on the tires. And I'm not. That's an RPL setup for you. Look at how the brake and wheel work together. Now when you want the car to turn, you use the throttle for that. Leave the wheel set and just let that throttle turn the car until it's time to unwind the steering wheel. I had to use a little brake there. It started to wash. You could hear it in the tires. By the way, you might notice I've got the sound of the tires turned up very, very loud. That's my advice to you. The force feedback tells you a lot of information, but the sound of the tires tells you even more. Right there, I definitely had to fire off from the bottom. That car was slow. I had to take it right down to the yellow. Now I'm going to enter from the third, exit from the second. I don't have any challenge from behind, and I'm all windshield. I see what I got up there, and it's going to be a while before I get to them, so... Now, as far as turning out of 3 and 4 here, I'm looking ahead. There's a stripe that marks the beginning of pit road, but I see a red stripe on the wall right there. And I throttled up too much too early. But I'm looking for that stripe on the wall. When I come out of 1 and 2, it's a little bit different. There's a hill that you see in the distance with the trees and radio towers on it. Once those come into view, that's my signal to mash the throttle right there. You can see them up there as you come around that turn. I don't like to look at the wall. If you look at the wall, you'll want to drive into it. It's just better to have your eyes look at something else. So, coming out of here, I'm looking for my stripe. There it is behind those cars. I'm driving by it now. Now we're getting our eyes ready to look at the hilltop that comes into view as we get past these signs. There's the hilltop. There's the trees. There's like a cluster of 2 trees that you see in the middle of that hill behind the backstretch. I use that as my landmark. When it comes into windshield view, it's time to get on the throttle. There's my stripe. Come in on the third. Roll down the second using throttle to keep it rotated. Now when I straighten that wheel out, see my trees on the hill, it's full throttle. A little bit of a dive bomb, but I had too much of a run to let him get away with that. I scrubbed up the track on him. Hopefully I'm all the way past. A human racer would have been pissed about that. And the braking point, that's something I haven't really talked about earlier. You maybe already see what I'm doing, but there are sign markers on the side of the track, up on the fence. They go 4, 3, 2, 1. Right there, of course, I'm not braking at my normal braking point. I have to kind of let off. There's cars up here. I'm going to pass them one at a time at my leisure. I might hit the braking point this straight. I'm pretty close to the car in front. He's giving me the top. Right about the 2. Just before you hit the 2, you want to get on those binders. Slow her down. I don't know if I'm top of 3 here, so I'm just going to drive the top. You drive it the exact same way you drop the second or third lanes. You just choreograph your brake to your wheel and then use your throttle to keep the car rotated. Now here I have to give up a run. Taking a look to see what I got. I'm going to follow this guy through on the bottom. He's slow, so this was an easy turn for me. I'm getting ready to fire off on him. I'm setting him up for the next corner. I want to take him high. He takes that away from me, so I'll push him out to the wall. Here, I'm just going to race him around the corner on the outside. I gave him a lot of space. Human players, you want to do that too. If they know you're going to pass them, they'll sometimes retaliate by scrubbing up and giving you the door. Damage here isn't a deal killer, but you want to avoid it. Speaking of damage, I purposely run 60 tape here. You can do up to 68. But if you take any damage to the front end, like if you have to move somebody out of the way, giving them the old bump and run, you're going to start to overheat at 68 tape for sure. So just to give myself a little bit of headroom in case I decide I want to punt somebody, you run 60 tape. Starting to see this late in the run that throttling to get the car to rotate also gives it a little bit of speed that the tires kind of can't handle. So you have to work the throttle in such a way that it gets the car to rotate without building too much speed. You don't want too much speed on the exit or you're going to eat up some tire, maybe even get the wall. A perfect entry in the third lane, a perfect exit out of the second on this lap. I'm able to get back into my groove. There's nobody to pass and no cause for urgency. I already know with these tires I'm catching up to the next set of cars. All they are is waiting for me to come and pass them at this point, so I'm clearly going to win this race. I'm just taking it easy on the car and the tires, hitting my line. Coming in lane 3, roll the corner a little bit, in with the throttle to get it to rotate. Gotta work the wheel, come off the throttle a bit too fast. I let off well before the 2 sign here because I know I'm not going to have the pass in this turn against this guy. I want him on the straight, so I backed it off so that I would time my overtake for the exit. That makes it impossible for him to come down and defend the bottom line. Unless they want to give up a lot of speed and give you the top. This guy I'm going to have to pin to the wall. And a lot more brake on entry here because I'm coming in low. I've merged with the exit line. I'm now on my second line. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to pass this guy. I think I'll take him on the high side. He's inside me right now. I'm going to cross him over. He tried to defend the bottom, but he couldn't get there. And that's why you go in on the 4th or 5th lane high. You can fire off out of the bottom of that corner and they can't stop you. It's a good way to pass. On some of these turns, I'm noticing that the throttle, I'm coming in with the throttle as I unwind the wheel. And in the telemetry circles, they're almost locked together on these exits. That's because you don't want to throttle it too much with the wheel turn. That can spin you, and it also eats up the right front even if it doesn't. So there's a choreography there. You're going to see the brakes come out as I wind into the turn, and the throttle come in as I wind out. Except for that half throttle mid-corner that you use to keep the car rolling and to keep it rotating around the corner. There's that beautiful choreography between winding into the turn, letting off the brake. There's the throttle to roll the corner. Throttle and wheel both come up equally. There's a lot to be learned from these laps. Watch the wheel go in as the brakes go out, and then an exit. Watch the throttle and wheel. Watch the throttle come in as the wheel goes back out. You'll also notice I'm not going all the way to the 2. At the braking point, I'm starting to brake a touch earlier, just basically backing up the corners. I'm very satisfied with the speed of the car, the lap times. Again, it's very obvious I'm going to win the race. I got speed. Now here I am in that 4th groove again. That's because I'm going to fire off out of the bottom of this turn, beat him on the straightaway. They can't block it. It's a wonderful way to pass. I might even swallow 2 cars here at the same time. Let's see what the 28 does. Wisely, he gave me the bottom. Now I'm going to cross this guy over. It takes a while to set that one up when you're diamonding the turn that sharply, but I also know how slow this guy is. It was easy to pass. Back to my groove. In on 3, out on 2. You can start to see I'm trying to figure out a smoothness to the controls. I'm also trying to figure out how to fire off out of those turns. The car does stick really good. If you try to fire off too early, it'll spin on you, and then you're going to lose a lot of time. You just have to be very patient. Once you can see out past the stripe on the front stretch, or see out to the 2 trees and the radio towers on the back stretch, you hit that full throttle, there's not an ounce of wheel chirp. It's just super quiet back there. There's no scrub of the rear tires or nothing. The car just goes. It's a matter of being patient, though. You try to get into that throttle too early, you're dunzos. I had to work the throttle a little bit here. I had some decision making about how I wanted to pass this guy. In the end, I chose to put him out towards the wall, make him scrub out. It took me a while to get to full throttle there. If you have to pass somebody low, you really can't fire off in the conventional way. It takes a little less throttle. Less is definitely more when you're making a pass like that. This car is the same thing. Almost all the way out of that turn before I dared go past half throttle. So again, it's patience on throttle on exit. Had to kind of save it there. This time he's going to give me the wall. That was much appreciated. I'll come in a little higher than usual here. I know he's past me now, but I'm still wanting this arc. Watch the choreography between the wheel and the brake. Sometimes a little touch of brake like you saw there just helps get that car down, helps it point. It gives you the sensation of being a little tight at the bottom, but that's okay. It keeps you honest on exit. Gives you a good run off, that little extra tightness. I think it's a good trade-off for most drivers. Here I'm setting him up for a pass. I'm going to try to run off from the bottom. There you go. Good way to demonstrate that pass. You've seen a lot of it so far this race. I got a bunch of cars up here. I don't know if anybody's going to end up too wide yet. He's so slow, I decided to take him inside on the straight, next to him by the stripe. Just going to get my car in my line. I'm not worried about a pass yet. Now I'm thinking about it. He's just too slow coming off the turn. Again, easy on the throttle on the exit allowed me to stay down, get by him on that straightaway. Just being patient everywhere. The throttle and the wheel, it's almost like they're locked together. I'm setting this guy up from the high side for an inside crossover. It's a little too heavy on the throttle there. I had to work the wheel to keep it alive. It's easy though. This track is very easy to save. It's not like Atlanta that we had last week. He ended up on the very bottom here. I missed this turn. My runoff is going to suffer for it. 3/10 slower than my last lap. That was an oops. The good part of that is actually the tires are a little bit cooler for this lap. I'll probably end up with a good lap time this lap. Get a little more out of the car after a slow lap because the tires have had a lap to cool down. It makes a difference. I can tell by looking at my throttle. I was getting into the throttle much earlier on these exits. And I just shaved 7/10 off my lap. So, miss your turn exit, lose 3/10. But you get 7/10 back on the next lap. If you drive it right, take advantage of the cooler tire. Back to fast lap, slightly hotter tires, 1/10 slower on the lap. You notice that your lap times might seesaw a little bit. I was 31.5, 31.6, 31.4. That's actually kind of the wave effect from heating the tires. These slightly faster laps, heat the tires up a little bit. The lap that follows will be a smidge slower. This guy decided to set him up for a pass later. Again, we're getting close to the end of the race. Now it's not the time to get wrecked, even in a bot race. Actually, that's the win. So if you hung out, stayed for the whole race, good on you, and I hope you guys all learned something from it. And good luck this week with the RacePal-Dot-Live community setup at New Hampshire. Thank you for watching.